Hey girls, it's Miss Gaska. Today we're going to go over English 1 Semester 1 Week 2 Activity 2.4, the meaning of imagery and symbols. Our learning targets for this activity are to identify the imagery and symbols that writers use as a way to infer a writer's purpose and interpret meaning, and to write an interpretive statement about meaning in a text by analyzing and synthesizing information. So think about imagery and symbols as you answer these questions. First of all, when you see the words fire and ice, what literal images come to mind? Brainstorm with your class a list of the ideas, objects, or events that you associate with these two words. Now, since we're working online, we're not going to brainstorm with the class, but I want you to come up with your own idea of, or your own list of ideas, objects, or events that you associate with the words fire and that you associate with the word ice. So I'll give you some of mine to start you off. Fire, hot. Ice, cold. Fire, burns. Ice, freezes. Ice cream, fireworks. So there are many different things you can add, so go ahead and add several of your own to that list. So now, not with a partner, individually, unfortunately, make meaning of the common figurative associations as presented in the sentences below. Her icy stare let me know just how she felt. So usually when we're describing somebody's icy stare, we're talking about them having like a cold stare, like they look emotionless. The second one, he acted so cold to me that I knew he was still angry. So that one we're using so cold to mean like cold-hearted. His face was red and flushed with the heat of his anger. So now we're talking about how anger is like a hot emotion and his face gets all red and looks like, he's fiery. And then the fierce fire in her eyes made her attitude clear. That kind of sounds more like she's got a fire inside her that's like motivating her to, do whatever it is that she's wanting to do. So when images are used figuratively rather than literally, they are being used symbolically. That is, the image represents itself, but also stands for something more abstract. So what do the images of fire and ice represent or symbolize in the sentences above? So think about that. What does it represent? So in this activity, you're going to be reading a poem and thinking about how the author uses symbols for effect. So let's look at the setting a purpose for reading, which is the most important part that tells you how to annotate a poem. So here it says, underline and annotate any examples of figurative and literal language, meaning language that is used to mean exactly what it says and language that's used to mean something besides what it says. Then circle unknown words and phrases as always. Try to determine the meaning of those words by using context clues, word parts, or a dictionary. So circle. So this poem is by Robert Frost, and it's called Fire and Ice. Some say the world will end in fire, some say in ice. From what I've tasted of desire, I hold with those who favor fire. But if it had to perish twice, I think I know enough of hate to know that for destruction, ice is also great and would suffice. So we have some competing images going on here. We have the contrast between fire and ice, and we have them symbolizing different things. So here it says, some say the world will end in fire. This is a literal meaning here. People are saying that maybe the world will have some kind of an explosion or some kind of a war to cause it to set on fire. So this is a literal use of the word of fire. And then some say in ice, so that's a literal use of ice, meaning something that the world is going to freeze over. From what I've tasted of desire, I hold with those who favor fire, which means he agrees with people who say that the world's going to end in fire, but not because he thinks there's going to be explosions and destructions and all that, but because of humankind's desire, maybe desire for something more. So he thinks that desire is going to be what destroys the planet. So here he's using fire as a metaphor, or as a symbol rather, for desire. Passion, desire, things like that are often associated with heat or fire. So I'm going to underline fire as well. And then he said, but if it had to perish twice, meaning if the earth had to end twice, I think I know enough of hate to know that for destruction, ice is also great and would suffice. Meaning if we treat each other without love in our hearts, if we treat each other with nothing but coldness and animosity and anger, then the world could end as a result of that. So he's using ice to symbolize being hateful or cold-hearted. So here he's using, and by the way, the word suffice means it would be enough. So, in number 3, it says, what is the central idea of the poem? Which details convey the central idea? So what is the poet trying to say with this poem? Think about that. What message is he communicating? And then which details kind of give you the hints that led you to that message? For number 4, it says, what human emotions does the author associate with the natural elements of fire and ice? What impact do these associations have on the poem? So first you're going to write about what human emotions he gives to ice and what human emotions he gives to fire. And then you're going to explain how those associations that he's creating help build the tone of the poem. So you'll also need to determine what the tone is in order to correctly answer that question. So in line 3, the speaker says, I've tasted of desire. So is this statement literal or figurative? Why? So think about that. Did he literally taste fire? Is it possible for him to taste fire? And if so, what does fire taste like? Because I don't know. Or did he figuratively taste fire, meaning he's experienced fiery experiences, not literal fire, and those experiences showed him that, whatever he's trying to say about fire. So is he being literal or figurative? And then working from the text, number 6 says, read the poem again silently. Pay close attention to the punctuation marks that signal ends of sentences. So it doesn't say that you have to do anything with that, just that you have to reread it and look at the punctuation marks. So here it says with the partner, we're not doing that. But I do want you to read the poem aloud by yourself so that you only stop at the end of each sentence, not each line. So oftentimes when we read poetry, we're naturally inclined to stop at the end of the line, but what you're being asked is to read it to yourself, but this time try to stop at the end of the sentence so that you could feel how the poem should flow according to the punctuation marks. So I also want you to circle the words, go back to the poem and circle the words associated with the 2 major images. Then using the words and phrases that you circled, analyze the purpose of the imagery and symbols in the poem, and annotate the text in the My Notes space. So you'll go back and analyze what purpose the author had for using those images and symbols. So then, for the check your understanding, you have this sentence frame that it wants you to fill out. So here, you would put the title of the text, which is Fire and Ice. Here you would put Robert Frost, which is the name of the author, and then suggests that, and then you say the purpose or meaning or main idea. So the first 2 spaces are pretty easy to put together. The last one you'll have to come up with on your own, but I think that you could do it using what we've discussed. Then, this is the last activity, writing to sources, explanatory text. So explain how the author uses imagery and symbolism to convey purpose and meaning in his writing. Use the interpretive statement you wrote as a starting point. They're referring to this sentence here, by the way. Be sure to begin with a clear thesis that states your position, include direct quotations from the text to support your claims, introduce and punctuate all quotations correctly, and then include transitions between points and a statement that provides a conclusion. So all you got to do is write a paragraph that hits all of these bullet points and does what they're asking you to do. And then you'll be all done with week 2 of English 1, semester 1, week 2. So fantastic job, girls, for getting to this point. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in week 3. Take care.